Hello, Edith.
Hey Dean, how are you?
Very well. How are you?
I'm very, very well. I was looking back, it was 2019 was the last time we spoke.
Yeah, that was one of
Yeah.
my favorite interviews.
Oh, bless you. Very kind of you say so. Thank you for this film, for just I mean it's a
Thank
world that, from our previous conversation that I have loved just being, feeling like you're part of as a fan. So just to have this live action version of it is just joyful. So congratulations.
thank you. Thank you.
How's it been in terms of taking the story into that arena?
I mean, it's obviously fraught with challenges and a little bit of stress that we might somehow uh, disrespect the source and somehow offend the existing fans of the animated trilogy. But we went in knowing that, and so I think we were always holding each other accountable and trying to stay honest and making sure that we were preserving the soul and preserving the heart and being additive in ways that really benefited, whether it was deepening the mythology or enriching the character relationships and making the action a little bit more visceral and immersive, but never tampering with what worked, I suppose.
And in terms of having, kind of, you've had that luxury of having actors voice these characters, which is still such a great performance from people, but to have that opportunity to have live action, has that been kind of joyful for you to just kind of see that and to be immersed in that experience?
Yeah, for me, that was the greatest education of it all. I think having come from a discipline where we have so much ability to cut up and paste together versions of recordings that we liked best, and there's there's sort of unbridled control in animation, and in live action, you give over a certain amount of that. You prepare as best you can, and you
Yeah.
create a compelling environment with sets and costumes, and then you hand it over to the actors, and that's where thankfully I had a wonderful DOP working by my side, Bill Pope, and he said, now you put on the blinders and you forget the 300 people that are milling around you and just focus on these two actors because you're watching for the truth.
Yeah.
And it may change the way you've scripted the scene. It may involve pauses and cadence that you didn't anticipate, but if the magic starts to ignite, it'll be clear, and that's what we're here to watch for, and be nimble and pivot to reset our lights and reset our cameras to make sure we get that, because that's what's going to ignite the screen.
I mean, the casting's phenomenal, and obviously there's a lovely kind of pull through there with Jerry. Do you know what I mean? That's a lovely opportunity to have that kind of come through from the original trilogy sort of thing as well. But how was the casting experience for you in terms of it's a bit of a unique experience, I imagine, or situation where these characters have lived with a group of actors prior, so you've got to almost try and erase that slightly, haven't you?
Yeah, I very consciously steered myself away from trying to find uh, uh, facsimiles of the animated counterparts. I just sort of went back to, like, what is the spirit of the character, and who will best embody it in this new version.
Mm.
So never looking to just cast people who looked like their counterparts, but rather who played well off of one another, where the comedic dynamics or the dramatic dynamics came to be, and doing chemistry reads where we brought some of our favorite candidates for each character and put them in a
Yeah,
room and run scenes. It kind of made the decision for us, to be honest, because
really.
it just became very clear those who knew the characters through and through with such confidence that they were present and they were listening and they were reacting, and a cadence was starting to build in the room with the casting director. It was I think it just we could all point to the ones that worked best and be in agreement.
Nick Frost, I'm such a huge fan of, and I just think what he brings to this film and this role is just something quite special, to be honest.
Yes, yeah, and Nick, like Jerry, was not available when we first started to cast the film.
No.
Yeah, and it was quite heartbreaking, especially for Jerry, because I thought, well, that's a no-brainer. He helped create the character. Of course, he has to come back and reprise the role. Only he had back-to-back projects, and he just
Mm.
wasn't available. So it was the actors' strike of 2023 that made made both of those fine actors available to us for a short window because projects had been sort of shifted and jostled by that delay.
Yeah, fate. Things are meant to happen for a reason. I totally believe it. And I also just wanted to mention, I mean, your hiccup and Astrid and Mason Nico are absolutely wonderful. I love the kind of just the energy that Nico in particular kind of brings to this, the kind of just wonderful. But I wanted to just pick up on Julian Dennison, who I'm such a fan of, and weirdly just introduced my 12-year-old to Hunt for the Wilder People
Yeah,
last week. I mean, I just love seeing him on screen, and so I was so excited when I saw that he was going to be part of this world. He's fantastic.
he really is. And he's such a warm individual that comes across with his character portrayal, but just being around him, being on set. He's everyone's favorite person.
Let's talk music then. What were the
Yes.
conversations, and also was the idea and the hope that you would always have kind of John through this as well?
Yeah, the first conversation that I had with the studio when they were the ones who approached me and said, "Listen, we're kicking the tires on an idea of reimagining this in live action." And at first I said, "Well, if you're really thinking about doing it, then I would like to volunteer because I know these characters, I know this world, and I
Yeah.
don't want to see somebody else's version of it, selfishly." Uh, but as soon as I got off the phone, I picked it up again and called John Powell and said, "Talk me out of this if you think it's a bad idea, but this is what we're considering." And he came to the same conclusion, which is, he said, if we do this right and we do it with love and respect, it'll feel like a nostalgic hug to all of
Mm,
those fans that grew up with the movies, who hold them dear, but also it's going to open it up to a wide swath of people who haven't seen it, including a young new generation. And so he said, if you're in, I'm in. And he was tasked with basically the same challenge. How do you take something that's become quite uh, beloved and
yeah.
in this case quite iconic, and then revisit it with scope and grandeur and sort of in additive increases in subtle ways
Yeah.
that are almost invisible. And so he found a way of doing that, and he even included a whole new theme about the father and the son, the tension, this sort of push and pull of love and expectation as played out through the movie, which is it's wonderful. It plays right into the end credits, and I think John's a genius. He's a storyteller, who happens to be an amazing composer,
Yeah.
and so everything that he does is like a narrative harmony that supports the movie in such a rich and textured way.
Well, I think for this story and these characters, there is the music very much being one of those, and it kind of really I think this is a transportative nature of what John's created, both in terms of the world that we're in, the relationships, the excitement, the drama, the kind of the highs and the lows. It's an extraordinary job that he did with those original films, but to be able to get the chance to reimagine and add to it in this particular way, he's done such a great job.
I agree. I agree. I think for better or worse, but I think it's turning out to be for better. There is there's such a faithfulness
Mm.
to to the to that original animated film, and I think revisiting those themes in the context of this live action interpretation of it is so rich. Like by the time those iconic moments come, whether it's Forbidden Friendship or Test Drive, you're hit with such a surge of euphoria that comes from the music. And
Hmm.
and we've talked about this before. I mean, everything we do as filmmakers is to try to pull it halfway there, and then you put it into the hands of the composer and let them carry it the rest of the way because they speak in a language that goes straight to the heart. And it's alchemy for
Yeah.
me. It baffles me because I'm musically illiterate, but I'm so responsive to music as well, and so inspired by it.
Absolutely. Well,
And
you
so
had, yeah, I mean, the even a note of a bagpipe, Dean, has me. Do you know what I mean? It's kind of like, oh, I'm there already. It's
yeah,
my roots. It's kind of, oh,
yeah.
yes.
Yeah, yeah. But I feel stirred in the same way, and I don't think I have any Scottish in my blood, but yeah, it's so rousing, and
Yeah,
there may be people. Same with the movie. There may be people who complain there isn't enough new stuff. It's not. It's too faithful, but we pick a lane and we commit to it, and we did it with confidence. And so hopefully it is that sort of rich revisiting of something that is familiar with fresh elements.
absolutely. Absolutely. And also just I have to mention as well the creation of beasts, um that they're beasts of field beasts, to be honest, because they're just these creatures. They're wonderful. And you did an extraordinary job in the animated films, and I was so excited to see how you brought them to life in the Larson, and you feel like you can almost reach into the screen when he's when that first thing when he's with Toothless, and you just feel the same. They're so real. Like, what's that? How was that for you in terms of almost kind of doing as good a job at even better with the action in terms of how you brought them to life?
Um, I'll just say you were breaking up a bit. It
Oh, I'm
looks like our
sorry.
link is unstable. No, that's okay. I got the gist of the question, but I hope that my response isn't broken up as well. If it is, let me know.
Okay, I can hear you great.
Okay. So yeah, the dragons were the crux of the whole thing. And I made the promise to Universal from the beginning that it should feel as though these dragons are as convincing as any dinosaur in Jurassic Park. They have to have that level of credibility, otherwise the whole thing will fall apart. And so that gave us the challenge of working backward. We took the designs from the animated movie and started to think about the animals that might have inspired those simplified, caricatured versions. And so we leaned into the animal references quite a bit, whether it was a crocodile or a black panther or a tropical bird or a walrus, and also tried to migrate both the silhouette, the coloring, and especially the personalities of those animated dragons into the live action versions. And so it was a design process, but also one thing that was quite instrumental in the making of the movie was that we created foam puppets of each dragon that were to size and to spec, and they were puppeteered by an amazing
Wow.
team led by Tom Wilton, who are responsible for stage productions like the War Horse and Life of Pi. And so they brought the dragons to life on set, and they gave our actors something to respond to, not just in terms of eye line, but in terms of
Mm.
a scene part. And so they fully embodied the personalities and the subtleties of the dragon acting, which were then replaced by the wonderful animators from Framestore, who took all of those cues and just infused every dragon with as much personality and animal references as possible, especially Toothless. He has so many dog and cat personality bits that we've pulled from YouTube and elsewhere. And we really want the audience to say, oh, yeah, my cat does that all the time, or I've seen my dog do that. As much as we can make him feel like a domesticated pet. That was really our goal from the start.
Oh, we've done a very, very beautiful and brilliant job. Really is. It's extraordinary. Can you hear me okay, or am I cutting out again?
Yeah. No, I can hear you.
Great. Um, what was it? I mean, also just the kind of the world that we're transported to in this, it feels and looks so real and and you kind of, you're almost kind of ducking when they're on flights and things like that. Oh, you feel that kind of wonderful kind of yeah, that transportative nature. What was the reality of kind of shooting? Were you able to shoot in any locations at all, any kind of places, or yeah, talk to me a little bit about that, about taking us to the world.
Sure. So the movie was shot in Northern Ireland. Our stages were in Belfast, and our backlot was there as well. But we also shot in the forests and the coastlines of the Antrim coast. Beautiful spots. But probably for the scope and the grandeur of the flying, we started the whole the whole process by doing a location scout and subsequently following up with a shoot of the coastlines and canyons and sea stacks of Iceland and Isle of Skye and most influentially the Faroe Islands, which are little known, but they sit between Iceland and Scotland, and they're incredible in terms of their shape and their scale. So we just kind of shot the hell out of those, and also did digital scans of everything we liked, so that we could rebuild it in the computer as needed. But that's where you get most of the scope and scale of the island of Burke and its surrounding archipelago. It's just most of it comes from the Faroe Islands, and that's it's a mix of real world aerial photography and very clever photoreal environments that were generated by our friends at Framestore.
And my sister-in-law and her family are going to be so thrilled. They're Faroese. So I'm so excited to share that with them.
Fantastic.
Yeah, yeah, amazing.
The trickiest
And
thing there was, I'll just add to it, that
mm,
getting Mason to feel like he's fused into that environment on an animated dragon was especially tricky, uh, because we had to film him as a separate element. And we did this on a blue screen stage. We spent a month on a blue screen stage at the end of the shoot. They built a giant, it's about 3 meters tall, what they call a gimbal, this platform that moves in
mhm.
six different axes. And then on top of that, they built animatronic robotic dragons for each dragon that would be ridden. So Toothless had his own, essentially like what do you call those things? You see them in like cowboy
Like a
bars.
simulator,
Like
like a bucking bronco type
yeah,
thing. Hmm.
exactly. So we put a saddle on top of it, but it was articulated so that the chest was separate from the neck, which was separate from the head, and it could all be controlled um, through joysticks or through animation that had been previously done. And when Mason was on top of that, he would react like a jockey on a horse. His whole body would move around, whether the dragon was dipping or ascending or rolling or banking. And we could then extract that element and put it on our animation and then fuse it with that Faroese environment.
That makes sense because I'm so excited as well to head to your theme park as well to take part in these rides. How exciting is that?
That is surreal. We just came from there like a week and a half ago. And yeah, it is really bizarre to see like the attention to detail and the faithfulness to the design work of the animated movie come to life. And when you're in that, it's so much bigger than you think it is. When you're in that
Mm.
Isle of Folk world, you don't even see the neighboring worlds of Epic Universe. You're just in the land of Burke. And it's incredibly well done. Every detail.
Well, listen, this first film, we've got the trilogy with regards to animation film. I'm very much hoping that we get the trilogy of live action as well because, the love for this first one, I felt just was wonderful to get back into the world and these characters. So thank you for that. I very much hope it's the start of this next journey for How to Train Your Dragon.
Thank you. Well, I'm busy writing away on the second film, so
Yeah.
it is an opportunity to kind of course correct on a few regrets that I live with every movie, and just a great opportunity to sort of expand and go richer in directions that feel appropriate. So I'm looking forward to it as well. But thank you for that.
Amazing. Dean, it's lovely to chat to you again, and I look forward to the next opportunity, hopefully in person. Thank you for your time today.
Likewise, it's always lovely to chat with you.